Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've got an unfortunate breaking situation here to report on. ABC whistleblower allegedly will release an affidavit claiming the Harris campaign was given sample questions that were essentially the same questions that were given during the debate, as well as assurances that Trump would be fact checked and she would not. And so, if this is true, this is next level collusion. This is bias that we haven't seen before, even with the Donna Brazile questions to Hillary back in 2016, which we know happened. And that's part of the reason she got fired from CNN. It's funny now she's with ABC and then this happens. But I mean, if this is true, this is a total and complete sham, and it really should guarantee Trump the election. I mean, you're talking about assurances. It's not just enough you get, and it's funny how you would think they would dress up the sample questions. Oh, they're just sample questions, but really it's like the same thing as the real questions, but you can kind of get out of it by saying it's just a sample question. You can kind of understand that, but the idea that they would be given assurances that Trump would be fact-checked and she would not be, you have to think like there's no way that could be true, could it? I mean, that is next level bad by ABC. And of course, all of these networks, they claim that they're unbiased. We all know it's not true. Even liberals, conservatives, every network has a way they lean, but they still say, oh, we're unbiased, we're fair. We just asked Mr. President this question. That it was very obvious that they were biased. Even the AI, if you run it through a transcript, they admit that it's biased. And now it looks like, according to this whistleblower, this is going to get really, really ugly, and it could get so bad. It's not just the sample questions, which are basically dressed up to be a dumbed down version of the real question, so they can just say, oh, it's just a sample question, when really it's the same thing. It's not only that, which is bad enough. I mean, that is, you're giving the questions to people, and obviously Kamala Harris at that point, we saw her during the debate, they were reporting that she was memorizing things, so it wouldn't surprise me if she had already received the questions or received at least the topics to the questions. But that second thing is next level bad. Assurances, and remember the CNN little interview that she did with Waltz? I don't know what I'm doing with my hand here, but remember the CNN interview that she did with Waltz, to where I think for sure, number one, the transcript wasn't even released, but I think because the Kamala campaign had leverage, because everyone wanted her to do an interview and she knew that it would get huge views, and you're talking to CNN, you're talking to MSNBC, you're basically at a bidding war. You can kind of set the narrative and the rules. And she was probably saying, her campaign, the Kamala campaign, was probably like, listen, this is how it's going to go. It's going to be edited. It's not going to be live. You're not going to release the transcript. We're going to give you the questions, or at least the topics that you can talk about, and you're not going to push back too much. That's how this is going to go. And you can get the interview, CNN. You can have it. You can get all the views, but this is the way it's going to go. And so it looks like this is another version of that, by saying, oh, there are certain assurances that we're going to fact check Trump, which, by the way, when they fact checked him several times, they lied about Trump lying. Like with the abortion thing and with the Springfield thing. I think there were a few other times. It was 7 total times that I had seen in a report to where they fact checked him and said, no, that's not true. And that's not even counting the snarky comments where they were trying to they were asking Trump, oh, explain January 6th. Why did it get so bad? And Trump's like, Nancy Pelosi, she admitted she did not have the correct security, and they were trying to make it as bad as possible. That's why. And he's like, the question was not about Nancy Pelosi. Yes, it was. You asked why it was so bad. It was because of Nancy Pelosi, who we got admitting in a private video, in a leaked video, that she messed up on the security on January 6th because liberals wanted to make it as bad as possible because it would be a terrible stain for conservatives, which is exactly what it turned into. And then he's like, oh, it's not about Nancy Pelosi. So that's not even counting that bias. So this wouldn't surprise me at all. Everybody knows, even liberals are out admitting this was totally biased. Some of them still say, oh no, it was fair. But we all know how ridiculous it was when you talk about Kamala Harris, lie after lie after lie after lie. It gets so bad where I call it out live as I'm live streaming the debate. Surely they've fact-checked Trump 5 times. This is a terribly false statement. I think it was the Very Fine People, which Snopes, the leftist site, had fact-checked and said, no, this is false. And then Biden repeated it. And now Harris repeats it again. And they just keep repeating lies that have been proven false by liberal fact-checkers. But it doesn't matter. They think that if they just keep saying it because they have the control of the mainstream media, like 80 to 90% of it, it won't matter and they'll just be able to get away with just blatantly lying. They're going to say to your face, yes, I'm lying. Donald Trump did not say these things, but I'm just going to say he did and people will believe it. And that'll be the end of that. And so when it comes to something, if this is true, oh my goodness, that's terrible. We've got Donald Trump holding a town hall in Flint, Michigan. That's going to be happening next Tuesday at 7 o'clock. Breaking: whistleblower confirms that Kamala Harris was given the questions before the ABC debate. I don't know if that's been verified, though. They said they were going to come forward and talk about it and give proof. This could be a huge bombshell. Breaking: the Kamala Harris campaign just got caught bussing in thousands of people. Again, another one. And now it's gotten so bad, the new liberal spin is because they knew that this was going to start happening. She cannot draw people when she goes to these places. Nobody cares about her, so they have to bring people in from other cities, and that's why they have to bus them in. And so now the spin is they do it for security, and all the liberals have been given the talking point that the buses are there in front because they know it looks terrible. They say it's for security. So obviously they're bussing people in and just nobody cares about Kamala Harris. I mean, look at her social media presence and how weak it is. Nobody cares. She got 0 votes. She was installed. She would be this weak VP with a negative 15 approval rating if Biden didn't choke at that debate. That's what she would be. This is what happens. This is the result. It's all fake. They have to bus people in because nobody cares. And you're talking about going to certain areas. Listen, if Kamala Harris went to New York City, she could get a big crowd. There'd be no need for buses. But you're talking about on the campaign trail, small cities in North Carolina, small cities in Pennsylvania. If you do not have that huge demand, it's going to be hard to draw in those smaller populated places. Trump can do it because he's such a huge name. He's the most important person in the United States. But with Kamala Harris, she can't do it. She's been installed. She's a prop. Even liberals know that. And so that's why you see, and now they're like, okay, this is getting really bad. It's becoming blatantly obvious. There's like 20 buses lined up, dropping people off. We got to start spinning this and saying, oh, it's for security. We have to line the buses up. And so that's their new spin because they were given that. Democrat operatives are like, this is so bad. This woman's embarrassing us so much. Why did we do this? We have to try and explain this somehow. Oh my God, just say it's for security, please. Just do something. Tell all the idiot Democrat supporters that we're just using as pawns. Just tell them it's for security, please. And so that's what they're doing there. So I mean, we're going to see this at basically every rally. There's going to be buses. They have these busing companies. And then, I mean, sometimes they can't have the rallies. You know, there's like a second grade field trip and they're like, oh, the buses are rented out. We can't have a rally today. Shucks. But that happens as well with Kamala and her campaign, I would imagine. I mean, that's what they look at all this. This is like a field trip. It's a field trip. No, it's for security. That's the new narrative. It's for security. That's how bad it's gotten. This is huge, huge stuff. What is this? North Carolina Democrat who posted a video showing buses outside of Kamala rally, deleted the clip, but it was saved. And so there are all the buses that they claim are for security, and then the lines of people right in front of them. Unbelievable. I wonder even where that rally was. Why would that be for security? That doesn't even make sense. The rally's inside. I think they had the rally at an arena. But again, they have to do this because there's not the demand for Harris in these smaller populated, smaller cities. So they have to bring in people. And so they have the busing system. And it's going to be very hard for Kamala Harris to have multiple rallies because a lot of times the buses are going to be rented out. The party buses, you're not going to have them. It's a Friday night. You can't do a rally on a Friday night, Kamala. All the party buses are rented out. You draw 20 people. And so that's really what's happening there. This is huge news, and it's very sad if this is true because not only is it the sample questions, which are the same exact thing, basically as the real questions, at least it's the topics, but it's also assurances that Trump would be fact-checked, which is exactly what happened, and she would not be. Again, that's exactly what happened. And this is not some liberal bullshit to where they'll say, well, Trump just lies so much. We have to fact-check him. She was lying her ass off to the point where she was saying lies that liberal fact-checkers had disproven, and they said nothing to her. This is blatant bias. And so this wouldn't surprise me. This is huge stuff that's coming out, and it is very, very sad. Hopefully people realize this that watch the debate, and they're like, oh, she crushed him. Actually, according to independent people, she didn't even win. Trump got like 60%. She got like 40%. And that's with her apparently knowing the questions as well as the assurance that Trump would be fact-checked and she would not be fact-checked. I mean, even if CNN were to you have to understand, if you're going to fact check and you want to say, well, he shouldn't get away with telling all these lies, you have to be balanced and fact check both of them. It wasn't even like they were trying to hide it. They didn't do it once to her. And so that's really the big issue there. If you're going to fact check him 5 times, do her, at least 3 or 4 times to make it look realistic, like you're not biased, and they didn't even do that. So either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.